Welcome back everyone, Jake here. In this video, I'm going to solve the mystery for you why the Russian ruble is the best performing currency so far this year. For Russian supporters, this is a huge psychological boost as they can point to their strengthening currency to make the argument that the Russian economy is fine, the sanctions put on Russia by the West simply aren't working, and this just isn't true. The Russian economy is currently tanking, inflation is high, unemployment is going up, wages are going down, the GDP of the Russian economy is collapsing. However, the ruble, their currency, is actually doing pretty well. How is this possible? I'm going to explain that in this video. Bottom line up front, the Russian government and Russia's central bank has been manipulating their currency. But the arguments I want to make first is that the Russian economy does not equal the strength of their currency. Yes, normally strong economies have strong currencies, but that's only in a true free marketplace, which doesn't exist in Russia right now. So to understand exactly what's been happening with the Russian ruble, this is a very basic supply and demand chart used by economists to explain the exchange rates. The blue line is supply, the demand line is red, and if demand reduces, it shifts left. If it increases, it shifts right. Same thing with the supply line. Okay, the first thing that Russia's central bank has done is they've restricted selling of Russian assets by foreigners. So if you're a foreigner who owns Russian stocks, bonds, or real estates, sucks to be you because you can't get your money, you can't get your assets out of the country. Here's an article from March 1st, Russia to temporarily ban foreigners from selling any of their assets. How long will this ban stay in effect? Nobody knows. But in effect, Russia has nationalized these assets if they're not going to let foreigners sell them on the open market. So by doing this, they've artificially net increased the demand for their assets, raising the price of their currency. If you still want to buy Russian real estate, bonds, or stocks, they'll let you do that. They're just not going to let you sell any of it. The second thing Russia's central bank has done is they put a limit on withdrawals of foreign currencies for their own citizens. So if you're a Russian citizen and you want to go to a local bank and pull out euros or dollars, what Russia has done is they've limited how much money you can do. So here's an article from March 9th. Central Bank of Russia limits foreign cash withdrawals until September 9th. So they've imposed a 10,000 US dollar limit on foreign cash withdrawals. Will this limit be extended past September 9th? My suspicion is yes, so that Russians can't get their money out of Russia. So in effect, they've net artificially increased the demand, increasing the price of their currency. If you have dollars or euros in Russia and want to trade it for rubles, they'll let you trade that currency. They're just not going to let you go in the other direction. The third thing that Russia's central bank has done is they just bought their own currency. Because economic activity in rubles has severely declined, there's less liquidity in the system. Less people buying and selling Russian rubles in international markets means that it's a lot easier as a big buyer to just manipulate and prop up the currency. So prior to the war, Russia's central bank held reserves of US dollars and euros. When the war broke out and their economy or their currency collapsed, what they did is they used those US dollars and euros they already had to just buy their own currency to artificially, temporarily inflate the price. That was a one-shot trick. So yes, 2 weeks into the war, Russia's currency devalued from about $75 rubles to 1 US dollar, all the way to 140. But they were massively buying down here in order to get the ruble to go back up. So not hard to understand this one. Increase the demand for your own currency by buying it, you increase the price relative to other currencies. The fourth thing that Russia's central bank did is they increased their central bank's interest rates. Here's an article from February 28th where Russia's central bank more than doubled key interest rates to 20% to boost the sinking ruble. This actually affects the supply line, and when you raise the interest rate, it becomes more expensive, more difficult to borrow money. Fewer people are borrowing money. There's less money in circulation. As supply contracts, this causes the value of your currency to increase. Number 5 is a big one, and I think this is the one that most people are generally aware of now, but Russia's exports are exceeding their imports, and Russia is forcing all of their customers to buy their exports in rubles. Russia told the European Union, if you want our oil and gas, you have to first buy rubles to get it. I think Europe said no, and Russia just kind of accepted it. But if you're a Brazilian, Indian, or Chinese company and you want to buy Russian energy, more than likely they are participating in Russia's scheme, and they're first buying rubles in order to buy Russia's exports. Now, exports exceed imports. Normally, this is good for a country, good for an economy, but the reason why Russian imports have fallen is because the United States, North America, and Europe no longer want to do business with Russia. They're not selling Russia anything. So Russia's exports, being primarily energy, have remained relatively constant, but they've just stopped importing stuff. Reason why is obvious. Europe is still dependent on Russian oil and gas for energy needs, but in 6 months or a year, if they can get rid of this need for Russian exports, potentially this will greatly impact the Russian economy. But in the short term, this is increasing the net demands relative to their imports and exports, which improves the strength of their currency. Okay, so Russia did it. They propped up their currency. It's now stronger today than it was before the war. How does this benefit Russia? How does this benefit the average Russian citizen? So here's the list. Number 1 is you're going to get a better exchange rate when traveling abroad. So if you're a Russian citizen and you've always dreamed of seeing Paris, London, New York, San Francisco, whatever, now's the time to travel abroad because your currency is stronger relative to the US dollar and the European euro. How many Russians are actually taking international trips? If you were to visit the West at this time, when you return, you might end up in an interrogation room. The second benefit to having a strong currency is that tourists have to pay more when visiting Russia. So for all you Americans out there who want to take your dream honeymoon to Crimea, I'm sorry, it's going to be a little bit more of an expensive trip now. Likewise, for any European backpackers that want to finally make it to Moscow, it's going to cost more money. Unfortunately, for any Westerners who try and go to Russia today, you're more than likely going to get abducted and then held as basically, a bargaining chip in geopolitical strategies. Number 3 benefits is that imports from other countries are now cheaper. Is this really benefiting Russia if nobody wants to sell them anything or do business with them? So normally a stronger currency helps imports, but I don't know how much Russia is importing right now. Benefit number 4 is that Russian corporations doing business internationally, their currency is stronger, so their ruble goes farther. But how many Russian businesses are really expanding their operations internationally right now in Paris, Berlin, London, New York, Los Angeles? This just isn't benefiting most Russians. So I've made the argument that a stronger currency actually isn't helping the Russian economy right now. It's mostly just a psychological boost to benefit them. And this stronger currency is actually only temporary, and it's going to start reversing relatively soon. So let's go back to this list of 5 things that the Russian central bank and the Russian government has done to improve the strength of their currency. Number 1, restrict the selling of Russian assets by foreigners. If you are a Brazilian, Indian, or Chinese businessman, do you really want to do business in Russia and buy their bonds, stocks, or real estate if Russia won't let you sell it? Eventually, Russia is going to have to lift this restriction, otherwise, no foreign investment will ever come into the country. Number 2, limit on withdrawals in foreign currency. This is set to expire in September. Perhaps they'll extend it, but if you're a Russian millionaire or billionaire, you've got to be pretty upset at how difficult the government is making it for you to get your money out of the country. I guarantee you there are members within the Russian military or Kremlin insiders that are desperate to get their money out of the country. And eventually, I think this limit on withdrawing foreign currencies has to be lifted once again for the sake of just improving business and economic activity. Number 3, they just bought their own currency with foreign reserves they held prior to the war. They can't really do this again. The money is gone. Number 4, raising the interest rates. Yes, this will help your currency, but it's devastating to the economy. If it's costing you greater than 20% to borrow money, you're not going to buy a house, you're not going to get a car loan, you're not going to start a small business, you can't finance debt basically. And Russia knows this. They've already cut their key interest rate down to actually where it was before the war even started, because their measures they've taken to boost the ruble have been so successful. Number 5, let's talk about exports and imports. This is really important. For imports, this is Russia's top 10 imports for 2021. This is prior to all the sanctions being put on Russia. So what were they buying? What can they not domestically produce themselves? Machinery, including computers, electrical machinery, vehicles, pharmaceuticals, plastics, optical, technical, medical equipment, iron and steel, organic chemicals, fruits and nuts. With Western sanctions being put on Russia, and with all of the hostility that the central bank and the Russian government has placed on economic activity and business, nobody wants to do business with Russia. They are an economic pariah to the Western world, but in general, I mean, even if you're a friendly country, let's say India or China, how much do you really want to risk your capital, your money, investing in Russia or selling them stuff when their currency is currently being manipulated heavily? So this brings us to exports and how a stronger currency might actually be hurting Russian exports. Now, obviously, we know what Russia's top export is. It's gas and petroleum. There's always going to be a demand for petroleum and gas around the world. But what about Russia's other smaller export industries? We have platinum, gold, aluminum, wood, oils, copper, diamonds. We've got fertilizers, gas turbines, frozen fish. I understand that frozen fish might not make up a huge percentage of Russia's exports, but there are lots of people working in Russia right now that are harvesting these fish and selling them international. As Russia's currency rises, their exports actually become less competitive. So if you're a Chinese businessman or a Chinese vendor, as the Russian currency strengthens, maybe those frozen fish now look too expensive and you'll want to buy frozen fish from either Japan or South Korea. Potentially, if their exports aren't competitive, companies that produce all of these goods and services will start laying off people. This actually has a huge negative economic impact on the Russian economy when their currency strengthens. And to a certain extent, Russia might even want a weaker currency in order to domestically keep people employed. If exports are more competitive because your currency weakens, then more Russian companies might hire more and retain workers, but that simply isn't happening right now. I could talk to you for another 20 minutes in every way that the Russian economy right now is screwed and currently collapsing. Russia is set to default on their foreign debt for the first time since 1917. Once again, does any international actors, friendly or unfriendly, want to do business now or in the near future when this is how the Russian state acts internationally? You need foreign investment. You need integration into the global economy. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up to be a much larger version of North Korea. So here we are. The next time a Russian troll or a Russian bot leaves a comment on YouTube bragging about how the Russian ruble is stronger than ever, you can share this video with them, explain to them that the strength of their currency does not equal the strength of their economy, and in the near term, Russia's pretty screwed. Okay everyone, that's all for this update video. If you found it informative, give me a thumbs up, really helps out with the channel. If you know something I don't, leave me a question or comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, take care, be safe.